Public-private partnerships (PPPs) have found a central role in infrastructure development in Kenya. PPP is a procurement method for infrastructure projects. In this method, the government gets into an agreement with private companies to undertake infrastructure projects. The private companies target long-term financial benefits as the government looks to improve the living standards of its citizens while shedding a major percentage of the project's implementation risks. A study by NCA on domestic capacity of Kenya construction industry showed that involvement of local firms in infrastructure development is barely 15%. There's minimal or no participation of local firms in PPP infrastructure projects in Kenya. Majority of the projects are done by foreign firms, leading to loss of technology transfer opportunities for local practitioners, exclusion of local firms from PPP business opportunities, and lack of exposure to enterprise networking. The National Construction Authority, established under the National Construction Authority Act of 2011, is mandated to oversee and coordinate the development and construction industry in Kenya.
I'm privileged to head this very important institution whose mandate is basically to oversee and coordinate the development in construction industry in Kenya. And within that oversight and coordination mandate, there are key aspects that is expected by our stakeholders out there. One of them is basically registration of contractors, basically issuing licenses to contractors to be able to undertake construction business. We also issue accreditation, or we do accreditation to skilled construction workers and site supervisors. These are the people who are actually employees of contractors that we license. So it's expected that a contractor in their establishment will have construction workers who are accredited by National Construction Authority. Additionally, we also register projects, and what that means is that for every construction project happening in this country, for them to be considered to be legally compliant, they need to have a compliance certificate after getting a project registered by National Construction Authority. And as a follow-up, we also do quality assurance checks by way of visiting sites that are under construction to ensure that they have all the compliance documents, like they have project is already licensed or registered and as a compliance certificate, they have a registered contractor commensurate with the work that's being done, either in terms of category, which is the size of the contractor, in terms of the class, which is the work that is supposed to be done. We also ensure that in that project, when we carry out the visits, they have other statutory compliance like environmental license, county approval, and any approval that is necessary specific to that particular project. So in addition to that, we also carry out what we call capacity building, which is training of contractors that we have licensed, and this is done on annual basis, meaning that for a contractor to renew their license, because the license expires every year, after every 12 months, and for you to qualify for renewal for the next year, for you to be able to have a valid practicing license from National Construction Authority as a contractor, you must have attended training, and you've been given, you've earned CPD points to be able to allow you to renew your license, and that the minimum is 10. And of course, we don't just train for people to get CPD points only. The training is basically to enhance knowledge in terms of the increased knowledge, capacity, management capacity, and even technical capacity for them to be able to do works in a more quality and enhanced manner. We also, of course, train construction workers and site supervisors as well in terms of our capacity building. But capacity building is wider than training. Training is just addressing the issue of manpower. But we also have capacity in terms of equipment, in terms of finances, in terms of materials, in terms of money, or what call it the finances that I've talked about, in terms of even markets. So in a nutshell, capacity looks at all the value chain ingredients that are required in the construction. Because for you to construct, you need money, you need materials, you need manpower, you need machines, which I call equipment, and so on and so forth.
In the exercise of its mandate, the authority investigated the factors influencing participation of local firms in PPP infrastructure projects in Kenya. The study noted the following key factors that influence participation of local firms: regulatory and institutional framework, local firm capacity and experience in PPP projects, social cultural environment, and political environment. In promoting local content in the construction projects in Kenya, the NCA Act prescribes that foreign construction firms that show interest in infrastructure projects within the country must be attached to a local firm so as to be registered as a contractor. The law also compels foreign firms that win the contracts to acquire 40% of the labor needed for the construction within the country and 30% local content.
You know, our law says of that 30% local content, yes, and 40% labor. Yes. So this, in fact, the requirement that for any expert coming, for that expert to get work permit, there must be attached a Kenyan, a local. Yes. Yeah. Any expert, for him to get work permit, yes, there must be a Kenyan attached to him. Okay. So that's what we do. So that when we are preparing the organization chart for the project, yes, we say, this is our project manager. Yes. The Kenyan personnel attached to him is so and so. Yes. So in the organogram of the project, we name everybody, yes, even they are foreigners or local. Yes. But we say, this is attached to this person. So by the time of it, by the time the project ends, we have gained knowledge. Kenyans have gained skills. Kenyans have gained knowledge, both explicit knowledge and tacit knowledge.
The government's growing appetite for PPP infrastructure projects has seen sudden rise in the number of mega infrastructure projects in the country's energy, water, and road sectors, with some completed and others ongoing. One such project is the construction of Nairobi Expressway, a state-of-the-art 27-kilometer road from Mlolongo to Westlands, passing right through Nairobi city centre. The government entered into an agreement with China Roads and Bridges, CRBC, to construct the Nairobi Expressway. The expressway is a privately initiated investment proposal, PIIP, under the PPP procurement model. CRBC put up a proposal, signed the agreement with the Government of Kenya through Kenya National Highways Authority, KENHA, and set up the Special Purpose Vehicle, SPV, which is also referred to as a project company named Moja Express. CRBC has a 15% equity stake in Mojo Express, with 85% held by a conglomerate of foreign lenders led by China Exim Bank. The project company engaged Cal Infrastructure Company as the EPC contractor. In this arrangement, CRBC took the demand risk of the 27-kilometer road project, meaning that the government of Kenya has not offered any guarantee on the project's return on investment. The Nairobi Expressway is a toll project where motorists pay to use the road. The concession shall last for 30 years, after which the ownership will revert to the government. The project was completed in June 2022, an operations and maintenance contractor appointed to be in charge of maintaining the road and collecting toll fees on behalf of the project company. The independent expert of the Nairobi Expressway during construction engaged several local engineers to supervise the construction works being undertaken in the project. There was also local involvement in terms of the workforce in lower cadres, such as casual laborers, who have been engaged on a personal level by the contractor.
I would say that, PPP is actually a concept that has been here for some time, but the uptake has taken some time to get traction, if I may put it that way. But it is normally important because people believe in seeing. Seeing is believing. People believe in seeing what's happening so that they can now embrace it. And as the projects take shape, like the ones you've mentioned, the ones you visited, it is very clear that with the success of those projects, now it's going to take shape and people now embrace the PPP. Because PPP has got many partners involved, it has many dimensions. At the end of the day, people look at the benefits and how to mitigate the risks. Yes. The law establishes how PPP framework is supposed to engage. And I think to date, as we speak, there is a legal instrument in place that guides how PPPs are supposed to be conceived and so on and so forth. On the other side, we have also other legal instruments like the NCA, which envisages that for a construction PPP project, and as long as there's a foreign investment partner which is supposed to undertake construction, there is need to engage a local partner and give them a minimum 30%. Of course, as a working partner, not just a partner to sit. And the challenge that I've seen so far is the lack of what you call the partnership framework. Like either for you to be a partner, you either have to enter into a joint ventureship. So you need something like a structured document or a contract that you can easily on board with on. You also need either a subcontracting kind of arrangement, a clear contract that says who and who is entering a contract, what are the deliverables, what are the benefits, and so on and so forth. So because of those instruments not having been fully developed, we still have some work to do so that we're able to ensure that the traction is more enhanced for the onboarding of local firms on the PPP. There's also need to sensitize or maybe educate the players in the sector so that at least they are more aware, they are more informed, and they are able to embrace the PPP kind of arrangement. So because of those challenges, we are still yet to get where we need as far as involvement of local firms in PPPs are concerned. But as I said, the best answer will come out of this study to be able to tell us to what extent they have been engaged.
Local firms did not express interest in taking up this mega project. This could be attributed to the complexity of the project and the massive financing that it requires to complete. The energy sector in the country boasts close to 30% of PPP infrastructure investment in Kenya. The $79.15 million Susian Menengai Power Plant project under Geothermal Development Company, GDC, which is the contracting authority, is an example of a PPP infrastructure project that is underway and is expected to start operations soon. GDC has contracted to independent power producers to finance, procure, construct and operate 3 power plants on a build-own-operate basis. The IPPs awarded the contracts so far include Quantum Power East Africa GT Menengai Limited, Menengai 2 Geothermal Power Station, Sosian Menengai Geothermal Power Limited, Menengai 3 Geothermal Power Station, and OR Power 22 Limited, Menengai 1 Geothermal Power Station. Of the 3, Menengai 3 Geothermal Power Station is currently active and is owned by Sosian Menengai Geothermal Power Limited, a Kenyan independent power producer. Sosian Energy has contracted an EPC contractor, MS Kaishan Renewable Energy Development, a subsidiary of Zhejiang Kaishan Compressor, a Chinese construction conglomerate, to construct its geothermal power plant. Further, MS Sosian Menengai Geothermal Power Plant, SMGPL, has signed an EPC and O&M operation and maintenance contract with Kaishan Group. In this case, the role of local firms is noted to be relatively low. Why the case?
One of the challenges that we really highlight is the complexity of the geothermal projects. And when we talk about the complexity, we are looking at the project structuring. We are looking at making financial arrangements, essentially providing equity and the securities that are necessary for the equity. Being able to walk to a bank and borrow money. And I can give you an example of a very small project, like a 35 megawatts project. It's costing the IPPs almost about 70 million US dollars. That is roughly over slightly over about 7 billion Kenya shillings. So if you are going to put together that kind of amount of money, then how many of such organizations exist in Kenya? And that becomes a challenge. And especially if 70% of this must come from debt. So how many companies, assuming can walk up into a bank and walk out with a check of about 5 billion?
Within the energy sector, varied reasons have been identified for the low turnout of local firms in the PPP infrastructure projects bidding process and what could be done to increase the number. The experts note that the local firms have the capacity to take up and deliver on the mega PPP projects in the country. They have gained the necessary skills, both in technology and engineering, from working with the foreign firms in the previous construction projects.
There is a concurrence, I think, from what we discussed today, that one, there is very high potential within the country of experts. We have experts, we have experienced people, you have technical staff, experienced because most of them have played significant roles, even if it's at subcontracting level, in the PPP projects that have happened within the country. So as we look at that participation of local contractors, we have found in our discussion today very clear areas where we consider that if there were any, enabling frameworks, they would allow greater participation of PPPs of local contractors beyond the subcontracting level, because we are seeing most of them are coming at that level, doing things like earthworks, preparatory works, civil works, and so on.
The engineers say government support is key in this sector, despite the capacity built by the local firms in technology, manpower and equipment. The government must come up with intentional policies leaning towards the local firms so as to ease their operations in the PPP projects.
Openness in the early stages or in the call for proposals for PPP projects can increase participation of local firms within that process, and also reducing the number of steps or stopgaps that are necessary or required currently for local firms to go through before getting these contracts can also help to increase the number of local firms participating in the PPP process. PPP is an opportunity for us to be able to build capacity locally in Kenya, for local farms to be able to participate in infrastructure projects in a greater way, as opposed to before, where maybe it was known that they were, just subcontracting. So this is a chance for us to be able to build capacity and to find financial models that can help support local farms as they go into PPP contracts.
In a bid to address the critical shortage of housing for the National Police Service, the government came up with a plan to build more houses for the police through the use of a combination of private financing, development and facilities management expertise. The KCB Usalama Housing Project, KUHP, was initially a government-initiated project through the State Department of Housing and Shelter, Afrique. The project objective was to build 100,000 housing units for police officers across the country. KCB took a lead role as the project promoters and developed a privately independent initiated proposal, PIIP, and established a special purpose vehicle, SPV, which boarded a project implementation team consisting of consultants, Lexicon and ION as the lead technical advisor, legal advisors, transaction advisors, among others. The lead technical advisor, Lexicon and ION, is a local firm, and all the service providers in the project implementation team were locally sourced. KCB as an SPV had capacity to constitute a consortium of professionals with diverse skill sets and expertise in order to structure and manage the project implementation process. Due to capacity, not many local firms would initiate and participate in the bidding process for a PPP project.
One of the things that, of course, I would say is in terms of private sector participation in the country, fine, for the housing program, I would say fine, we've tried, at least we've had several Kenyan companies come in and actually undertake, because perhaps they understand more of how housing program works. But in the large projects, now you will find that that's a very different cup of tea. It's an area where, yes, we are not really, I would say, the private sector has not really appreciated or understood some of those complex investment and how they would actually be able to attract funding.
This is because the costs incurred upfront before any commercial close are high, including appraisal fees and professional fees for consultants, which requires entities with long-term capital.
I think it's difficult to have a fully local, it could be proponent, like have all local consultants, all local contractors, all local investors. A lot of it depends on the size and complexity of the project. And a lot of the PPP projects tend to be big or complex in nature.
The project implementation team, upon reaching financial close of the project, indicated that they would largely use local labor and local materials in the construction phase of the project. As part of the wider bank sustainability reporting strategy, they would attach local skilled labor to the project under the Jiajiri program run by the KCB Foundation.
KCB operates an environment with its various other people, and we know we impact the societies. So we are just not here to make money of a business, whether in this market or wherever else we operate. So we have a KCB Foundation, which is essentially the social arm of KCB. And in particular, we have programs that enable the artisans, the people who are trained in the probably non-university technical institutes, to enable them gain the right experience. You see, this project cannot be good in any way if you do not have the right masons, the right plumbers, the right electrical technicians. And I want to state that that is probably what is missing more than anything else. We have a number of engineers, a number of architects, a number of specialized people, but the actual doers, the actual people who do, are not very well skilled. And unless they are very well skilled, the final product will not be right. So what KCB does as a foundation, KCB Foundation, is to enable or train those artisans. We partner with the various institutions, all TVET in this country, and we every year go around the country. We have a criteria for selecting who and who will be enabled, and we train people in the various possible ways. not only in the construction, by the way, but even the general way of doing small businesses, saloons and everywhere. And we take them through a program. At the end of the day, we also give an enabling environment for them to learn the skills. So for the KCB Usalama Housing Project in particular, as I said before, the original program was to do a big project, 100,000 houses plus. We came to about 5,000 and now 310 units. In all the sites, the essence was we could then have an opportunity of attaching the various technicians from the various institutions on our own sites and therefore train them in a controlled kind of environment. Right now, as we realize, we have to attach them in the various contractors and developers that we work with, which are not adequate. So this project was actually aimed to also improve the transfer of knowledge from the seniors, from those who are either contractors, architects, engineers, to the people at the other level who did this information more. The impact of that is monumental, it's big. And we are still hoping that this project takes off so that we can live that dream of not only enabling the housing to come up, but also giving or passing the knowledge to the artisans so that at the end of the day, they also can both help themselves, help their families, and we therefore grow Kenya together.
During the procurement process, the bank made an open call for both local and international participants, but only foreign companies responded. Even though the information was public, most local firms would either be disinterested to participate or into capacity or perception that the tender is skewed towards foreign firms. This has a way of limiting the participation of local firms in PPP projects. There's a general perception that relevant project information is not shared to the public, hence hindering the participation in the bidding process. In the KUHP project, however, experts agreed that the PPP projects are complicated in terms of contract drafting and require experienced lawyers who can deliver on the right contract for the projects.
It requires someone to foresee what the risks and issues will be. How do you allocate the risk to the party best able to handle that risk? So for instance, one of the examples we gave during the discussions was you could enter into a contract with the Ministry of Housing, but if the funding is coming through the government, how do you allocate that risk and how do you convince the government to now also be involved?
Political factors including change of regime, overlaps in mandate of different government departments and competing interests had an effect on the implementation of this housing program.
Whenever there is a change of government, some of the key stakeholders in some offices sometimes change or resign or to go into politics. So when you pick up the project after a change in government, sometimes it's difficult because whoever is in, the new guys in place sometimes have a different agenda. So you find the project you are running suddenly stalls. There are no guarantees that, much as you have a contract, to eventually get that person interested in that project might take years and the project might just stop.
The project initially was initiated by the State Department of Housing but has transitioned through many other government departments due to lack of clarity on project objectives. This being a capital-intensive project, competition and lobbying amongst these departments was noted to impact project implementation.
PPP projects are generally infrastructural by nature and not housing. So we have had a lot of to and fro between KCB as an institution and the government. Like I said before, the government is various institutions that come together. They are here and there, and they have different views with different teams. There have sometimes been changes of teams. So the whole idea of having this project from conceptual up to now has not taken off just because of how maybe the institutions work. We quite appreciate that the government, being a big institution, has its own way of looking at things and various people. It has not been very massive to coordinate and get straight and quick answers from the various parties in government, and that has impacted. We also must appreciate the KCB as a bank works in a controlled environment, has a specific mandate, and there's specific approval levels depending on what is supposed to be done, and that has also taken its toll on the project. But overall, to me, It's a learning lesson. We have gone very far, but until the askari is living in a house, we can't say the project has been achieved.
This competing interest among departments, coupled with change in the leadership of those departments, contributed to the limited success in the completion of the projects. Different political regimes have their own set of priorities in infrastructure development.
There have been learning lessons. We have all gone through a process, changes on the way from both institutions, but at the end of the day, the goal is a little clearer still. We keep getting closer to the end every day.
The experience from the KUHP project demonstrates that there is adequate technical capacity within the country. However, a number of professional firms in Kenya operate as standalone entities, hence have a limited capability to offer the skill diversity required in PPP projects. Skills such as project, risk and financial management, as well as legal knowledge, are key in PPP project structuring.
This is now where now you find that the foreign investors who are more, basically, they're in sync with how these programs come in and actually participate, where the private sector in Kenya does not have, I think mostly is the knowledge. I wouldn't say maybe the funding. The funding could be there, but our people have not yet, really appreciated that there could be a lot of funding that can come from infrastructure programs. Lack of training, as I said, and then again, also, the investments also are too large. Let's face facts, the investments are too large. If you look at the express highway, you know the kind of money you're talking about. You tell me how many private firms in this country will be able, of course, to come in, because we are more of short-term investors.
The PPP framework requires in-depth discussions, consultations and negotiations with different project stakeholders before a commercial close. These initial project activities before a commercial close require heavy logistical and financial input. It therefore calls for firms endowed with long-term capital or apt financial relations, which largely lack in most local firms.
From a government perspective, let's try and also maybe make some of those projects slightly small. If maybe you make them slightly small, not these huge outlays you're talking about, probably then you can start seeing people now participating. Hospital programs, that sort of thing. They can be able, of course, to bring in investment.
The local contractors in Kenya rely on project cash flow to run project activities, rarely expending their own financing. Unlike in conventional government-funded projects, this aspect disadvantages them in a PPP project framework where working capital is wholly or partly financed by the private entity. It therefore inhibits their capacity to participate in bidding for mega infrastructure projects in the country.
One of the things that I see many local contractors are knocked off with is a requirement of having done similar projects of similar values in the last 5 years. Yes. And you look at what has been put there and you can't even name one local contractor. Yes. So they've already been kicked out. Yes. And by the time you're seeing that, then you're sure it's being tailored maybe for the Chinese. I don't know whether it's been negotiated or not. Mm-hmm. So there are certain aspects you can see, and although maybe it's open to locals, you can see the bid requirements already kick people out.
Through the PPP framework, the government has successfully constructed a 91-kilometer road with 2 sections, one stretching from Ngong Kiserian, Isinya, and the second section from Nairobi Namanga Road, Imaroro, the project dubbed Lot 33. The project commenced in 2013 when an expression of interest was issued under the PPP framework under the annuity funding model. The project came to a commercial close in 2018, and the service provider MS Intex RAF 1 Limited awarded the contract and commenced construction. The project had a 2-year construction and 8-year operation and maintenance period. There was substantial local participation in this project as the labor force used was mostly local. The project consultants and professionals were all local companies. The company SPV, Intex RAF 1, is owned by locals. The project financier, KCB Group, technical advisor to the financier MS Otieno Odongo, and partners consulting engineers were all local firms. The independent expert company MS Lear Associates is a foreign firm but had a joint venture with the local firm iTech Kenya Limited, where all the staff supporting the project were local. This was an impressive participation of the local firms in the PPP projects as compared to other projects we visited during the study. The annuity funding PPP model was a new concept at the time and required much needed political buy-in. The Ministry of Water, through Engineering, Procurement, Construction and Financing Model, EPCF, under the Public-Private Partnership, has been able to complete the Karumenu Dam, valued at 23 billion Kenyan shillings, and now Ruiru 2 and Bute Dams are starting under the same program.
We submitted this proposal to the National Treasury. The National Treasury gave us PPP nod.
Yes.
Yeah. But now when it comes to preparing the project, make the project viable so that it can receive the financing has not been easy. So we went into a model of PPP called Engineering, Procurement and Construction with financing.
Yes.
So that we have been able to submit to succeed in implementing projects. We have implemented Karumenu Dam at a cost of 23 billion and has been completed. It's now impounding water.
Yes.
Yeah, that was our first EPCF projects, engineering, procurement, construction and financing.
Yes.
Right now we are starting Ruiru 2 Dam.
Yes.
Yeah, we are also starting Bute Dam
Yes.
under the same arrangement.
Yes.
Yeah, we also prepared so many other projects, over 15 other projects to be funded under that model.
The ministry officials noted that due to the complexity of the projects that they undertake under the PPP model, local firms are incapable of participating given heavy financial obligations, something that the local firms lack. From the 4 infrastructural projects visited, it is evident that local firms hardly participate in the PPP projects. The Lot 33 project in Kajiado exhibited the highest level of local participation, involving both local firms and local labor. The industry stakeholders from the energy, water, roads and housing sector concur that there is great opportunities for local firms in PPP infrastructure projects.
We require government support for the success of a PPP project. The government is a key enabler for even the private sector, because you realize that you can have everything, you can even have the financing and anything, all the inputs into a project. But if you don't have, for example, a letter of support from government, then that can stall a project.
The National Construction Authority has a humongous task of creating awareness amongst local contractors and encouraging them to partner with international firms through joint ventures. This will enable the local firms experience best-case scenario or worst-case scenario for PPPs.
I would say that there is still need to do member education, public education, as far as PPPs are concerned. And it's through that education and getting information and knowledge that now the awareness levels will be increased or enhanced as far as availability of information to the public is concerned. Yeah, but education is necessary to increase that awareness. So the answer is public may not be adequately aware, and the awareness level is subject to the interests of the PPP and the projects that PPP address as far as the projects are concerned.
The local money markets should be innovative to venture in infrastructure development and help the local firms tap into the PPP's business. Increased participation of local firms in PPPs shall enhance capacity of local contractors, and NCA should monitor their performance and rate them. This information can then be made available to implementing agencies who then gauge the local firm's capability to participate in the PPP projects. The PPP project structuring should not only cover high-risk infrastructure projects, but also projects with lower risks to encourage the local contractors to build their capacity. There's also need to inculcate the concept of knowledge sharing, detailing the construction process step by step after the closure of every PPP project, so that the local firms can gain insight on the project implementation process to enhance their knowledge and skills. Local firms can participate as contractors, subcontractors, financiers, etc. PPP being a key strategy for investment in infrastructure projects, involvement of local farms is imperative and will enhance the country's GDP a great extent.